Imagine this. What if your next boss wasn't a person, but a program? And what if the future of how companies are run, and maybe even how we define justice itself, could just be calculated? It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but as we're about to see, this is a reality that's already here, and it's reshaping our world right now. So, meet Mika. She was actually appointed CEO of a global company. Her job? To make strategic decisions, but without any of the human stuff. No bias, no fatigue. And get this, she's not the only one. Mika is one of the first of a new and rapidly growing class of executive, one that isn't human at all.
What we're really witnessing here is a massive shift in thinking. AI is graduating from just being a tool that helps us to becoming the actual decision-maker in the room.
That's right. For over a decade now, companies all over the world have been quietly putting artificial intelligence systems on their boards in leadership roles. This isn't some far-off prediction. It's a real and, frankly, accelerating trend.
So, what does an AI boss even look like? Well, it's not always a walking, talking robot. They actually come in a few different flavors. You've got the humanoids, like Mika. Then there are personified virtual systems. Think avatars that exist only on a screen. You also have these enormous digital command centers that just crunch unbelievable amounts of data. And we're already starting to see hybrid systems that kind of mix and match all these approaches. And this gives you a sense of the incredible range we're talking about. On one end of the spectrum, you have the very human-like interface of Mika. And on the complete other end, you have something like the Panorama Digital Command Center, a sprawling digital nerve center that has already created over $1 billion in value just by optimizing every little thing for a huge energy company.
Okay, but this raises a huge, fundamental question, right? An AI doesn't think like a person. It computes. And our entire legal system, our entire ethical framework, it's all built for human minds.
And this is where we see the central conflict. Human decisions are, well, they're what you might call social constructs. They're messy, they're full of gut feelings, experience, biases, and just shared cultural understanding. But AI decisions? They're technical constructs, pure logic, hard data, cold calculation. The problem is, all our laws are written for the first kind. They are completely unprepared for the second.
How on earth do you tell a machine to be fair or to be reasonable? I mean, those concepts are so human, so open to interpretation. With our current laws, you just can't.
Well, the answer might come from an idea that's, believe it or not, surprisingly old. An idea that suggests we can, and maybe we must, translate our laws into the language of mathematics.
Centuries ago, this brilliant philosopher and mathematician, Gottfried Leibniz, he had this totally radical idea. He dreamed of a kind of universal math that could solve any dispute, even moral ones, with the absolute certainty of an equation. He figured if you could just define your terms precisely enough, you could just calculate the right answer.
And that brings us to the modern-day version of Leibniz's dream, algorithmic law. It's basically the process of taking an abstract human value, something like fairness, and defining it so precisely, with such clear mathematical rules, that a machine can understand it and execute it perfectly, every single time.
Now, if this sounds a little out there, just think about something we all deal with: tax law. A lot of it isn't about vague principles. It's just a series of mathematical functions, right? If your income is X and you have Y dependents, you calculate Z. There's no room for gut feelings. We're already doing this.
So let's bring this back to our world today, because the stakes for getting this right, well, they are incredibly high.
Because when we get the rules wrong for an AI, the consequences are very, very real. Amazon famously tried to build an AI to make its hiring process better. They fed it a decade's worth of resumes. But the system taught itself that male candidates were better, even penalizing resumes that had the word women's in them. They had to scrap the whole thing. So why did it fail so badly? It wasn't about bad intentions. The AI was just given a fuzzy goal: find the best candidates without a precise mathematical definition of what best even means. It needed to be told exactly how to calculate fairness and equality and what specific biases to exclude from the equation.
And you can actually see a potential solution in the real world by looking at the corporate code from Saudi Arabia. The old law, the one for humans, uses vague language like principles of fairness. But the proposed algorithmic law is way more precise. It specifies algorithmic fairness and, this is the key part, it adds in the interval. It sets quantifiable, mathematical boundaries that a machine can actually work with.
Which brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? In a world that's increasingly run by AI, we might just be forced to quantify everything, from fairness to ethics. And yeah, that could lead to a world with unbelievable clarity and objectivity. But in turning our deepest values into lines of code, what essential, unquantifiable part of our own humanity might we leave behind?